The push for freedom began on the date of April 19th, 1775. That day we declared war against Great Britain and stood up against their overregulation of the colonists' lives. For the next 8 years, all 13 colonies worked together to break free from the constraints caused by the Articles of Confederation. Finally, on September 3rd, 1783, at the cost of 50,000 colonial lives, Britain recognized American independence when the Treaty of Paris was signed. From that day on, we would no longer be suppressed by all the limitations set by Great Britain. We finally had the opportunity to create our own nation. 3 years after the U.S. Constitution was ratified in 1788, the Bill of Rights was ratified to guarantee a number of personal freedoms. It comprised of 10 amendments, the first one reading, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances." This gave Americans the freedom to express themselves, their opinions, and beliefs. Perhaps it turned out to be one of the most important laws to ever be established, as it brought changes throughout history, and still does so today. In America's early years, it quickly became clear that there were many issues to be sorted out concerning the limit on freedom of speech, including speech critical of the government. In Europe, speaking out against the king or the government was an action that would result in a fatal meeting with the guillotine. The Sedition Act of 1798 prohibited similar actions, restricting speech which was critical of the U.S. federal government. This law stirred up controversy, as critics of this act, such as Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, argued that it was unconstitutional based on the First Amendment. It wasn't until Jefferson succeeded John Quincy Adams as the third U.S. president in 1801 that the controversial acts were overturned and those who were imprisoned by them were pardoned. In 1917, controversy over the limitation on free speech struck yet again. During the patriotic fervor of World War I, the first Red Scare emerged as an increasingly widespread fear of Bolshevism and anarchism seemingly overtook the nation. After the Red Scare took storm, and several cases of American citizens resisting and urging resistance to the draft, the Espionage Act of 1917 imposed a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison for causing or attempting to cause insubordination, disloyalty, mutiny, or refusal of duty in the military and naval forces of the United States. 2 years later, the Supreme Court heard 4 appeals regarding this act, including Schneck v. United States. Charles Schneck was convicted under the Espionage Act for publishing leaflets urging resistance to the draft. He appealed and claimed that his actions were protected by the First Amendment. The Supreme Court's verdict unanimously affirmed his conviction, as they found his words to have created a clear and present danger to the public. For the next several years, it was unclear of what a clear and present danger truly was. The divisive issue of protest through flag desecration appeared before the Supreme Court in the Street v. New York case during 1969. Sidney Street was arrested for burning a 48-star flag and charged with a New York State law making it illegal to publicly mutilate any flag of the United States. In a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court ruled the New York law as unconstitutional. However, the court did not properly address the constitutionality of flag burning, and the definition of a clear and present danger remained a blur. It remained an unanswered question for 20 years until the judges of the Supreme Court found themselves hearing another case, Texas v. Johnson, regarding flag burning in 1989. While at the 1984 Republican National Convention, Gregory Lee Johnson burned an American flag. Johnson was charged with violating a Texas law prohibiting the vandalization of venerated objects. He was convicted and sentenced to 1 year in prison. However, the Supreme Court reversed his conviction, claiming that the government should not prohibit the expression of an idea simply because society finds the idea offensive or disagreeable. This ruling finally brought clarity to what type of speech should be deemed as a threat, as the Supreme Court upheld their ruling and used the Johnson v. Texas decision as a precedent for cases that followed. Today we still find ourselves debating the limitation on free speech. Some of the topics of the past still linger around. For example, a flag desecration amendment has been proposed to Congress on several occasions, most recently in 2006, but has yet to be passed. We also find ourselves involved in new controversies as well, including the emergence of the Westboro Baptist Church. Known for its hate speech, the church has put many people under distress when they flood the public sidewalks, protesting against gay rights. In 2011, the Supreme Court held that speech, no matter how outrageous it is found to be, cannot be liable for a tort of emotional distress. These are the type of rulings that have shown our growth as a country. We started as a group of colonies controlled by an overpowering nation in Britain, with little to no freedom. Now, we are a nation that allows our people to criticize our government and voice their opinions, no matter how heinous. The power of free speech is insurmountable. Without it, there would have been no civil rights movements, women's rights movement, or gay rights movement. If it were not for the First Amendment, our nation would not even remotely resemble the nation that we know today. It will help our country continue to evolve. We will continue to have debates concerning the freedom of speech like in the past. As the freedom of speech continues to be re-examined and redefined, it will serve as the backbone of an evolving democracy, aspiring to a higher level of social conscience.